Welcome to the Action Network podcast. I am Evan Abrams here at the Action Network, and I'm joined by, like I am every week, Brandon Anderson. Brandon, wow. So the games today, as we had talked about, were just the best all season. And I don't think we actually fully realized that Sunday Night Football was going to end up being 5 games in one game and the best game itself. But before I even go into my spiel, do you have anything to say about the game? Because it was just incredible off the top, and I can go through kind of my list of notes here. But I mean, overall, I was prepping really for the Bengals win, but then the Bengals chargered, and then the Chargers actually won. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit of everything. I felt like we watched like an entire season of Bengals and Chargers football somehow. Yeah, I mean, tale of two halves for sure. Chargers definitely at halftime. Like this was the hot read for me, and I'm like, man, this is one of the worst picks I've made all season. It looked terrible, and then I'm like, all right, I guess we're coming through on the win here. We get the McPherson field goal twice. He hooks it both times. Yeah, I have a few notes here, but I'm curious what you have to say first.
Yeah, sure. So let's just give out the score. So Chargers beat the Bengals 34-27, and the Chargers ended up closing as 1-point favorites, and it soared over the total of 48. And to be clear, the Bengals were I don't want to call them an underdog, but they got a lot of tickets in this one. It was about 75-80% of tickets. Everyone seemed to be on the Cincinnati side. From an Action Network point of view, it was nice that we got Will Dissly as a first touchdown. A lot of people had him in 23-1, and we had anytime touchdown. So great start to the game, and great start for the Chargers. Herbert was 6-6, 123 passing, 2 touchdowns. He even had 2 rushes for 50 yards. I mean, everything was rolling from LA's point of view early on. And Cincinnati, the game would have been relatively tied or close if Cincinnati could have executed in the red zone early. They go field goal, and it kind of ended up being the reason why the Chargers were up 20 plus points. But 27-6 was the max lead. 5:30 to go third quarter. You had a 4th and goal on the 4 for Cincinnati, and then it was touchdown punt, touchdown fumble, touchdown. And then all of a sudden it was 27-27. And then you saw Justin Herbert's first turnover since week 2. So it had been still hasn't thrown the interception, but turns over the ball. But again, you called it chaos. And the thing that really led to the Bengals comeback was not just Burrow, but I mean, Herbert finishes the game 11 of 30 after starting 6-6. So there was plenty of odd play calls, I think, especially the one I wrote down here was after the second missed field goal, when the Chargers get the ball back, you need like 20 yards. What are you doing? I believe they threw it all 3 downs. And there should have been, in my opinion, at least some runs there to kind of get them back in the game. But that's how it finished. Let me give you a few stats before I toss it to you when we move on here. So Cincinnati is now 1-6 straight up in 1-score games this year, tied for the worst mark in the NFL with the Jaguars, who we're going to talk a lot about soon. Cincinnati, 3-9 straight up in their last 12 one-score games, too, dating back to last year. So bounce is just not going their way. And then here's the 2 crazy ones. So say the Chargers would have lost this one. This was the great. So after tonight, teams to lead by 21 plus at any point in a night game are now 207-1 since 2008. And the one loss was Jacksonville and the Chargers in the playoffs. So the Chargers would have had both losses in night games leading by that much. And then the Burrow stat that just kills everyone. Teams to throw 3+ passing touchdowns this year are 36-13 straight up. 4 of those losses have come now from Cincinnati, which leads the NFL. They just can't get out of their own way and can't find wins, especially with those missed field goals from McPherson. But anything else to add there before we move on, Brandon?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of said it, but the Chargers charging was the thing forever, and it felt like it was the thing tonight. Like, this was the sort of game that if they hit the field goal and then the defense makes a stop, this ruins what's been this incredible Chargers season so far and what was an incredible first half also, and then it just flipped back, and the Bengals bungled instead at the end. I thought especially early in the game, I thought it was 2 very different teams. Like, the Bengals are just out-talenting you. They're just like, look, we're not doing anything fancy. We just got Joey, and he's chucking it to Chase and T, and we're just going to be better than you. And they were being better enough, just not quite in the red zone, and then it won out in the second half. The Chargers don't have that. They got Ladd McConkey making the big plays. They got Will Dissly making the plays, and J.K. Dobbins. I think the coaching disparity here was starkly on display to me, where the Bengals are not making it easy. They're just saying, you know what, Joey's dropping back and throwing it again, but it's okay. He's probably going to be good enough to beat you, and he usually was. The Chargers, just easy stuff. Open receivers, worse receivers than the Bengals. Don't matter if it's open because Justin's going to hit the throws. Lots of easy stuff. Killing them on play action in the first half. I don't even know what Anarumo did to adjust the second half, but Bengals linebackers all over the place. To me, that's why the Chargers are where they're at and why the Bengals are where they're at. Is I wonder if it's time for the Bengals to make a coaching change at some point. And frankly, at this point, like, this is like the fourth time the Bengals have cost themselves their season. I don't know how many times we can keep saying that they've done it. 4-7, you got to win out now to probably make the playoffs and get to the Super Bowl. Like, there's no more margin for error in every game. They have multiple margins that they give to the error, and I think we're out of luck here. It's a better team than 4-7, but sorry, that's the only stat that matters at the end of the day. That's how sports work, binary world. So it's tough, but at this point, I almost wonder, like, I don't know if T's here next year, so maybe that's part of it, but for Burrow and for Chase's sake, who've been incredible, who I think still are in the running for comeback player of the year and offensive player of the year. For Chase, like, they've been great. They might be better off just kind of getting a restart and getting someone in who's going to hit some easy buttons, get some guys in motion, get some guys open down the field rather than just, we got to out-talent you, because it always felt like Herbert was going to hit one of those throws, right? The guys were open, weird plays, you're right. But Herbert was getting so close on some of the throws, and then he finally hit a couple on the last drive, and then that was enough, and it was just enough to right the ship again. So, incredible theater. Great way to end a fun night. Great way to end an awesome day of football.
Yeah, incredible. And speaking of an awesome day of football, let's get into the game that probably should have led off every show, but this, Sunday Night Football chaos. So Buffalo at Kansas City. Buffalo beats Kansas City. No longer undefeated, 30-21, winning its 2.5-point favorites, total going over 47. I mean, the thing I look at least initially, looking at the entire game and the scope of it, is Kansas City loses the turnover battle. Fewer yards per play. They were outrushed. They had more penalties. They didn't sack Josh Allen once. Buffalo just simply played better across the board. I think it, I believe it was 23-21, really tight at the end there. Even at that point, I said to myself, oh, Kansas City's just going to find a way here. And you're going to look at the box score at the end of the game and you're going to say, oh my God, Buffalo is this better team who lost to Kansas City again. It just didn't happen that way. And I'm kind of glad, because week after week after week, yes, Kansas City has found a way, but Buffalo really did deserve this game. I mean, KC allowed their most points on defense since the Super Bowl, the 2022-23 Super Bowl. They allowed, they allowed 30 points today. So it has been a long time since we've seen a team get this away from Kansas City's defense. So last 3 years, Kansas City was 14-0 straight up when throwing 3+ passing touchdowns. They just they're not used to their defense even allowing close to this number. So Mahomes did throw 2 picks, but he played well. The stat that was crazy to me when I was watching the game, 5 first quarter interceptions is nuts for him this year. So I think that getting them off on the wrong foot is something to probably note going forward. Now, Buffalo, just big picture. They've won 6 in a row now entering the bye. The AFC East is wrapped up. You don't need Thanksgiving. You don't need Christmas. It's all over. And I believe I saw at a few sports books, Josh Allen, now the MVP favorite. I think I saw it a few books there. So that's going along as well. Now, Buffalo as a team, plus 13 turnover margin through 10 games. Best mark in the NFL. They were tied for the best margin through 10 games in Buffalo history in terms of turnover margin. So they're really doing and last year in the regular season, they were just +2. So to me, that's been a really, really big difference. But Buffalo after the bye, Sunday Night Football versus San Francisco, at the Rams, at the Lions. So definitely doesn't get easier, at least initially. So the win today was very, very big. And then here's the fun one, and I'm sure we can talk about this later. As a good segue to our next game, Pittsburgh now controls the 1 seed destiny with the Pittsburgh win and the Chiefs loss. But I don't know if you have a more to add here, Brandon. What you got?
Yeah, I mean, I think Josh Allen has his Heisman moment, right? Like that is the play of the season. 23-21, 4th and 2. Josh Allen does what only Josh Allen does, and just I watched the replay a couple times. I counted 8 defenders that he ran past, through, over, pick a preposition. They're there, and he's in the end zone celebrating. 26-yard touchdown. Fun one for me because, I had a lot of bets on this one. 11 bets for week 11 for the game. We hit the over on the rush attempts. We hit the 10-plus alt on this play. We hit the 50-plus rushing yards on this play and the 30-plus because it was a long run. We lost the keeping it within 1 score. So, you get a lot of bets. You're going to hit some and lose some. Travis Kelce, no-show today. 2 catches, 8 yards. So that part did not go well. I think the Bills' defense was the story, really. I thought that they did enough. Like that. You're not going to stop Mahomes entirely. And there wasn't like it was a bad game, but the Chiefs only had 259 yards of offense. Now, I think a lot of that is because we just had a lot of long, solid drives, so not quite as many chances. But the Bills' defense did enough, and the Bills were the more injured team here on both sides of the ball. No Matt Milano here, missing Keon Coleman, missing Kincaid.
Good point.
So I think as the week went on, more and more people were just kind of like, gotta just take Mahomes on the points. We know the underdog stat. Well, the underdog stat, as you tweeted out, he's now 11-0-1 ATS against not Josh Allen as an underdog, 1-2 ATS against Josh Allen as an underdog. 5th time ever that he's lost by more than 1 score, ever, in 124 games. So, also did not cover the teaser here, that I'm sure was a very popular teaser. 2.5, up to 8.5, you lose by 9. That's a tough one there. Obviously, get the old 1972 Dolphins, pop the champagne, hooray. Like, I don't think we really thought the Chiefs were quite going to get there. Allen, MVP favorite. Patrick Mahomes is 4th now, behind Jared Goff as an MVP favorite. They're still the top record, though I guess they're tied with the Lions and Jared Goff, who we'll get to. The Bills are in the 1 seed now, too. The Bills don't control their destiny, but they're a game back of the Chiefs with the tiebreak now. So that's interesting as well. And I think to your point about the MVP thing, Josh Allen, if the season ended right now, I am confident he would be the MVP. Season is end right now, and you just talked about it. You want the big moment. No one can take this away. You beat the unbeaten Chiefs. You had the Heisman moment. You had the big play. That's always going to be like number 1 on his resume for the season. Now you have a chance to lose the MVP. That's the problem. And we're going to talk about Lamar Jackson in a second. Josh Allen, with the schedule coming up, is going to have chances to lose the MVP. And normal Josh Allen wins MVP a whole bunch of games, but has like 2 or 3 games a season where he loses it. And I don't know where I can sit on the award because of that, because it seems like it's Allen or Lamar, but they're both kind of have losing it moments, and we're a long ways from the end of the season still. So I think the MVP race is still something to keep a close eye on.
Yeah, maybe it should go to Bo Nix, but we'll talk about that. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. All right, you teased it. Steelers, Ravens. Steelers win the game 18-16 as a 3-point home dog versus the Ravens. Total goes under 48.5, which was the second highest total in Steelers-Ravens history. Crazy enough. And the final margins between the Steelers and Ravens since 2020, 2-7-7, 3-2, 3-1, 4-5. You know it. You've heard it. It's just wild. And this game kind of brought the same thing. So what else you got here, Brandon?
Yeah, we got the hot read winner. We tailed all the Tomlin voodoo stats, and man, they started hot right away. Second play of the game, Derrick Henry fumbles. Like, it was right out of the gates. We're getting, like, if you're on the other side of this one, you're like, the trends are nothing. The Ravens are way better. The Ravens are way better. Nobody doesn't think that. In the second play, you get a fumble. Justin Tucker, Mr. Invincible for like decades, misses 2 field goals from 50 or closer. Then the Ravens get the ball. We're still in the first half, on their own 9 with 40 seconds till the half. And instead of just getting to halftime, they fumble it, give Pittsburgh another chance. Pittsburgh should have been up by more. But the other story here is no touchdowns for the Steelers. 6 field goals here for the second time this season. They already beat the Falcons doing exactly that in week 1. This is their second win this season. Of course, Mike Tomlin without a touchdown, 6 field goals, should have been 7. Russ had a bad interception in the end zone. Otherwise, they get another one there. That was on 3rd down. And then, so 18-10, Pittsburgh should be done. Should be over. Lamar has no touchdowns yet. They've held them in check. To his credit, Lamar Jackson leads the touchdown drive late. 9 plays, 69 yards. You get the touchdown. Now you need the 2-point play. And you know what? Week 1, everyone gave Lamar Jackson for the 2-point play he should have had because, oh, what a great throw was. Just a little tiny bit. Oh, his foot was on the line. Turns out you have to actually do the 2-point play. And Lamar ran in circles and then chucked it over his head backwards. And I guess that was the play. Not great play from either quarterback in this game. Pittsburgh finished 4 of 16 on 3rd down, 0 of 4 in the red zone. So this should have been worse. Baltimore's defense, I think here, they have been able to bail out the team in the past. They cannot bail this team out right now. The defense is not good enough to do that. So here we are. Ravens 7-4, Steelers 8-2. They're up effectively 2.5 games in the division now. And the Ravens play the Chargers next, who looked awfully good tonight, and the Eagles after that, who look really good and even better. Baltimore right now is the 6th seed in the AFC. So they're not even a lock to make the playoffs. They pretty much are, but 6th seed is not great. That's 3 road games. That's probably right now a road game in Buffalo, then a road game in Kansas City, then one more road game after that just to get to the Super Bowl. Besides that part, 4 losses, not so good for MVP odds. I think Lamar Jackson's MVP odds right now are far too short right now. He now against Pittsburgh in his career, 5 touchdowns. He had 1 today, passing and rushing combined, to 8 interceptions, 7 fumbles, 22 sacks against your marquee rival, 1 win in his career. And then the stat, you got to store it away. We're going to tell you it again next time. Underdogs in the Tomlin Harbaugh series now 24-6-3 ATS, 80%, 19-2-3 when it is an underdog of 3 or more as it was here. I don't know why. It's the weird voodoo thing that happens. Harbaugh, I believe, is now 0-11 ATS as a 3+ dog against Tomlin. The voodoo happened. I'm not a voodoo bettor, but you just got to play it in this matchup, and we saw it again here.
Yeah, I don't believe Lamar's covered in his career against Tomlin either. So just crazy voodoo every time they play. Steelers defense gives him a lot of trouble. All right, let's keep moving here. I'm going to do my big stat of the day, which I looked this up before and I went through some history, but it's worth repeating since we're going to talk about the Jaguars and Lions in a second. But double-digit favorites, now 5-0 straight up and against the spread this year, is the first time double-digit favorites are undefeated straight up through 11 weeks since 2004, just the second time in the last 40 years. But the crazy part is double-digit favorites being undefeated ATS through 11 weeks. First time ever. I went back to 1950. Wow. Never happened where all the double-digit favorites had covered this far into the season. So I think the 2 looking points here are the fact that, yeah, they've been good in the past. You've probably wanted to take the dog, but also the fact there's only been 5 through 11 weeks is just a wild number. I know we were talking about how short the spreads were through about 5 or 6 weeks, but that 5 double-digit favorite games is tied for the fewest through 11 weeks as well in that span. So just tight spreads, lack of upsets, wild year altogether. But we are going to get to now the best of the rest, and we're going to start with I don't want to call you the funeral director, but you did kind of set up an entire scenario today. But Jaguars at Lions. Lions win the game 52-6. They covered the 13.5 point spread pretty narrowly, and it went over 47.5. The one stat I looked up and tweeted out: Lions closed as 13.5 point favorites and won by 46. They're the first double-digit favorite since 2012 to win by 45+ points. Brandon, what else you got? Walk down the red carpet. What are you going to do here?
Yeah, I mean, look, you talked about the double-digit favorites. We talked about that stat on this game. This was our pick, Lions minus 13.5, and I said, keep an eye on the app. I have a feeling we're going to add some alts here. So Saturday night, I think Ian Rappaport tweeted out effectively, more or less, Doug Peterson's probably going to get fired on Monday. Like, it basically says that the day before the game. So we played a little Doug Peterson funeral escalator. And boy, did we eat today. Lions cover the 13.5. And here's the escalator. If you follow it on the app, 28 plus win, plus 520. 33 or more, 10 to 1. 39 or more point win, 20 to 1. First of all, absurd that a 39-point win is only 20 to 1 odds. But we got it anyways. I played the team total, 45 or more. That hit, plus 850. All in, I was at 1.75 units in, plus 6.56 units on the games. Wow. Tidy 375% ROI on the Doug Peterson funeral escalator. I suspect by the time many of you listen to this, Doug Peterson's funeral may have already been processed through Jacksonville. 2-9 into the bye. This, like the stats on this game, this is like, I don't know about the rest of the country. I'm a Midwest boy. This is the all-you-can-eat buffet, and everybody ate. Like, everybody's eating in Detroit. Jared Goff, 400 yards and 4 scores. Montgomery gets a couple of scores. Jahmyr Gibbs gets a score. Jameson Williams, 124 yards and 4 catches and a score. Amon-Ra, 11, 161 and 2 scores. It's like, I hope you had guys in this game on your fantasy team. They scored to start the game 7 straight touchdowns. Then, mercifully, just a field goal, and then the clock ran out on their last drive. We just did this a week ago with the Cardinals, with their series, how they kept converting all of them, how ridiculous it was. Detroit 1-upped it. Detroit 10-upped it. Detroit was successful on 37 of 38 series. The yardage in this game, 645 yards for the Lions, 170 for Jacksonville. That is absurd. I don't know if I've ever seen a margin quite like that. 5 yards of play more for Detroit than Jacksonville. 8.5 to just over 3.5. Jared Goff finishes 1.1 EPA per play. More than a point per play every time Jared Goff did a thing. Yeah, that's 100th percentile. The Lions as a team, more than half a point per play EPA every time they did a thing. 100th percentile. This is a game that breaks the percentiles and ruins all the stats for everybody else. This is the curve breaker in the stats machine in the NFL. It was ridiculous. Hope you followed at Parlay Express. That's the big new thing in Action Network. At Parlay Express, that's the on the Action app. We're doing escalators, we're doing long shots, we got parlays, SGPs in there, same games. This is, pizza money. Put a couple bucks on, have a little fun. At poor Doug Peterson's expense, we hope the best for them and their families as they look for their next job that they're going to be looking for soon. But, somebody's got to profit. It may as well be us. So Parlay Express, follow there. Matt Moore had a big one in buckets in the NBA world tonight there. We got a lot of fun ones in there, so be sure to look that up. And, pizza on the Jaguars tonight.
Completely. And I will also say the Super Bowl favorites are the Detroit Lions now after this shellacking, which is probably well deserved. And next week, Detroit -8 at the moment in the Colts. So that's an interesting game. And we'll talk about the Colts a little bit later, but they got the win in the Jets. So interesting matchup there nonetheless. But let's keep this rolling here. Seattle at San Francisco. Seattle beat San Francisco 20-17 as a 6-point dog. Total goes under 48.5. My notes here are pretty simple. This game was just a grind. From the start, both teams didn't look great at all. Nothing came easy except Juwan Jennings and Najigba, who were combined 20 receptions for 200-plus yards in this game. But both teams had very similar outputs, pretty rough on offense, efficient on third downs, but tough passing mostly. Purdy goes for 159 yards. Purdy hasn't thrown 2+ passing touchdowns at home this year. He's gone 9 straight home games, dating back to last year, without 2+ passing touchdowns. And this is the crazy one to me. So first 2 seasons, Purdy was 17-10 second half against the spread. This year, the 49ers are 2-8 second half ATS. They've lost 8 of their last 9 second half against the spread. So, and I believe from scrimmage touchdowns, they have 11 less than they did last year through this point. So it's just a completely different San Francisco team. And then you look at this today, 5.7 yards per attempt for Purdy. the second lowest as a starter for the 49ers, behind that Browns game that everyone will remember from 2023. So this was a horrible performance from Purdy when he had multiple opportunities with them leading in the game to ice this one away. And here's the one that, if you just want to look macro for a second, in week 16 last year, we had this big Ravens 49ers game on Christmas. Including that game, San Francisco is 8-8 in their last 16 games straight up.
Wow.
That's just the team they are currently. And then you look at the NFC West. Cardinals 6-4. They are plus 100 to win the division at the moment. Rams 5-5 are second at 5-1. Seattle 5-5 and third at 5-1. And then in last, because of tiebreakers, San Francisco also at 5-5 at plus 270. This division is a lot of decent mediocrity is probably the way I would look at it at the moment. But Seattle with this win definitely gives them an opportunity. And I think from the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan's point of view, they need to figure out what's next. I mean, Debo is not getting enough love in this game. I believe he had 1 carry and maybe 5 targets or so. And then here, last step before we move on from the AP. The 49ers are the first team since 2000 to lose 3 division games they led by 4+ points in the fourth quarter. They just completely blew this game and blew other games this year, and I think it's going to cost them a playoff spot. You have anything to say on this one, Brandon?
Yeah, so those 3 games you just mentioned that they blew, I believe that's the 3 division games. They are 1-3 in the division.
Yeah.
They have had a 90% chance or better of winning against the Cardinals and the Rams and now the Seahawks in all 3 games that they lost. So they have lost to each division opponent. They should not be the betting odds that they are to win that division right now. You cannot make that bet responsibly right now. They're last because they're 1-3 in the division. They're 3-4 in the conference. The Niners are in serious trouble of not making the playoffs at this point. Like, we can say it both ways. The talent is clearly there on both sides of the ball to be a Super Bowl contender, but the talent has to actually win games. And right now, they keep losing. Seattle, I think, saves the season here. I don't know what comes out of the division. I like this one because I have all the Seattle futures. It gave a shot here, but it's wide open in the division. I'm not sure it's as wide open for San Fran as the books are pricing them to be. They've got a tough schedule coming up. It is getting very tricky for this team right now. I think they really miss Brandon Ayuk. I know Juwan Jennings has been great for them. I know McCaffrey is back now. He doesn't quite look the same yet. Maybe that will still settle in. But something has been off, and they're not able to convert these. And yeah, it's getting really tricky for a team that books and really a lot of us have said, they're fine. The totals are there, the underlying stats are there. They'll win games eventually. They're kind of a little bit the NFC Bengals right now. Like, they're a team that's real good, that game to game you have to treat as real good, but futures and big picture, you got to win games at some point, and the Niners just aren't winning games.
Yeah, it's getting late early, as they like to say. San Francisco, 4th toughest remaining schedule of any team in the NFL, and that's going to include Lions, Bills, Packers, Cardinals, Rams. Not easy at all. All right, let's keep rolling here. Green Bay at Chicago. Green Bay beat Chicago 20-19 as a 6-point road favorite. The total goes under 41. Barely, because a field goal would have taken that over. Last 15 years, the Bears have led the Packers entering the fourth quarter 8 times. They are now 2-6 in those games, including 0-4 at home. Brandon, what else do you have on Bears-Packers?
Yeah, final score here, 2019, which coincidentally is still more recent than the last time the Bears beat the Packers in 2018. That's how bad this has gotten for them. Green Bay has won 11 times in a row, 26 of 29 now. It's not just Aaron Rodgers, apparently. The Bears cannot get it done. Look, that's the local team for me. Chicago fans needed this bad. It has been a rough month. It is now a 4-game losing streak after they looked so good going into the bye. They were ready to go 5-2 on the Hail Mary. Now we're here. They settle for the field goal. Gets partially blocked to end the game. Insult to injury. In case Bears fans are watching Red Zone channel, a few minutes later, who comes onto the field? Justin Fields for the Steelers to steal the big win over there, right as Chicago, it was just finally going to get something out of the game.
A little bit of lack of awareness from Fields, though. But yeah, understood.
Yeah, well, sure. But he still got the win. Still got to be on the field. The Packers really probably should have won this game by more. They averaged 8.5 yards a play. They only had 5 third downs the entire game. The problem is Jordan Love keeps doing stupid stuff too. Jordan Love throws an interception at the 1. Should have gone up 14-3 near halftime. Instead, the Bears go down the field and the Bears lead at halftime. Then later in the game, Jordan Love gets stopped at the 1. So 2 Green Bay drives end on the 1 yard line with no points there. Obviously, that's going to make the score look a little bit closer than it should be. The Packers, especially on early downs, look really good. They just couldn't do anything to save their lives late. So I think the Packers are lucky to come away with the win here. The Bears were right there. They get the Chiefs ending basically from a week ago, that the field goal that we thought was going to be good doesn't. But Green Bay is still in the mix of things, better shape than like the Niners because they got the win here. The underlying numbers make me feel a little bit better about this than what the score should be. Look, it's a rivalry game. It's a division game on the road, windy. You get the win, you survive in advance. I think that's Green Bay here, but you can't do that too often.
Yeah, back-to-back weeks, we get a blocked field goal right at the buzzer. Pretty short distance as well. And then we were talking about strength of schedule. The Bears, the hardest strength of schedule remaining in the NFL. Opponents at 73% win percentage, which is just absolutely ridiculous. Next week, they're at home, 3.5-point home underdogs against the Vikings, which now becomes an even bigger game after this one today. All right, Atlanta at Denver. Denver beats Atlanta 38-6 as a 2-point home favorite. Total goes under 44.5, absolutely barely. So if it wasn't for Detroit and Jacksonville, this would have been the blowout of the day. But we did get 2 absolute barn burn, no question, don't matter games over and over. And to me, the story here was Atlanta's defense, again, for what seems like every single week this season, can't cause any pressure ever. They were bottom 4 in pressure percentage entering this game. They get 1 sack of Bo Nix. They now have 11 sacks in 11 games. It makes it almost impossible for the offense, which, obviously only put up 6 points in this game and did nothing in the second half. But if you're not going to get any pressure on the opposing quarterbacks, you're going to let up a lot of points, and that's exactly what's happening here. But from Denver's point of view, it's really just a completely different team. Denver was 4-4 in the red zone, 6.7 yards per play. Bo Nix had 5 incompletions, no turnovers, 7-12 on 3rd and 4th downs, and like I said, outscored Atlanta 17-0 in the second half. What I think is important is Bo's looked much better recently. So since week 5, 12th in completion percentage over expected of all quarterbacks in the NFL. Weeks 1 through 4, he was 30th. So really what he is bringing to Denver right now is stability, and their defense is really, really stellar. Atlanta today, 21 of 50 on the ground, 2.4 yards per carry. Atlanta had run for 100 plus in 5 straight entering this game, and just a terrible way for Atlanta, obviously, to enter the bye. And then the good point on Denver, 6-5 now. They cashed their win total today, over 5.5 in week 11. So congratulations for bettors out there. Firmly in a playoff spot, obviously, with the Bengals losing and, what's seeming like the AFC West might get 3 teams since every other AFC team can't find wins. I guess the Colts was a good one today, but the only other thing I look at here is the end of year schedule for Denver. A little rough after that week 14 bye. They play the Colts at home, then at Chargers, at Bengals versus Chiefs if they need that game. So let's get the wins in now. Bo's looked much better, but really looking up.
Yeah, Broncos plus 200 was the pick that you and I both gave out on the podcast as if we wanted to do a make playoffs bet. So definitely stock up on that one. That schedule you mentioned, I think the entire AFC playoff now, barring a collapse by someone, we thought maybe the Steelers would collapse, but they're up now with margin on the Ravens. So it looks like they're probably in. The Ravens, we assume, are in. The Chargers, again, look like they might be up for grabs. Now they got the win. It seems like it's Denver for that last spot. And then that game against the Colts and the Broncos, the Colts and the Bengals in back-to-back weeks. Like that's the three probably for one spot. Denver's in pole position, but it's going to have to maybe hold off one or both of those teams. So AFC playoff picture just going to come down to jostling for seeds. Maybe we may not get a lot of drama about who makes it. We'll have to watch NFC for that.
Yeah, too many really bad records in that conference. All right, we're going to go quick now through the rest of these games. We're going to start with Colts, Jets. Colts beat the Jets 28-27. In New York is 4.5-point underdogs. Total goes over 43. The Jets have now lost 5 games outright as a favorite in just 11 weeks. 3-5 straight up as a favorite. Second worst team on the money line this year ahead of just Jacksonville. What else do you have here for us, Brandon?
Yeah, I think Anthony Richardson has to be the story, right? So he comes back in 20 of 30, 272 yards, no interceptions, only a couple sacks. He runs for 2 scores. He throws for a score. Leads the late touchdown drive. 6 plays, 70 yards, leads them down the field. 3 minutes left on the road, just against the Jets, who aren't very good. But this is a guy who got benched, quote, for the rest of the season like 2 weeks ago. He came out here, made some mistakes. Second play of the after halftime, he gets strip sacked, which gives up the lead. They turn into 14-13. You're going to make some mistakes. It's fine. It's like his 11th start ever. He's basically a rookie still. They bounced back. They got the win. I think it's, pretty good signs here. He made some big throws on that late drive. The numbers are pretty good here. Jets 3-8. Just get him out of here. We're done with the Jets thing. Colts 5-6. Like, yes, Denver winning today and the Chargers winning makes that AFC picture not necessarily keep 5-6 alive. 5-6 could be alive in the division still, the way the Texans have played lately as well. We'll get to them on Monday night. But I think Richardson, this is what you'd want to see coming out of the little break that they gave him. So we'll see where that goes from here.
Yeah, got a break facing the Jets defense. Bob Saleh right now sitting in his couch in Green Bay. Must be watching this one being like, what happened to my defense? All right. Browns at the Saints. Saints beat the Browns 35-14, covering as a 1-point home dog here as Cleveland got late money and ended up as the favorite. Total goes over 44. So Jameis throws for almost 400 yards and scores 14 points. The Taysom Hill game. What else you got, Brandon?
Yeah, the Browns should have been in a much better spot early. The first half, they missed 2 field goals. They turned over on downs. And then the defense just cratered the second half. The Saints finish over 8 yards of play here. So we don't need to say a lot about Saints-Browns. The Browns lost another couple offensive linemen. So they're supposed to be healthy coming out of the bye week, and they're immediately injured again. Taysom Hill, as you said, 7 carries, 138 yards for 3 touchdowns, 8 catches for 50 yards. And then just to feel something, you threw an interception too. Because why not? Who cares? You're up by 3 scores anyway. Saints-Browns, Saints dominated.
Yeah, Jameis's revenge game didn't go so well. All right, so Raiders at Dolphins. Miami wins the game 34-19. There was some drama there for a little while. The game felt a little tight, but they covered the 8-point spread. Total goes over 43.5. The stat I had here was Minshew has started 20 games now as a road dog. He is 4-16 straight up, 6-14 against the spread. That 6-14 number is the worst in our Bet Labs database of any quarterback since he made his first start. So again, got a little bit of offense, but not enough. What else you got here?
Yeah, Dolphins go to 4-6 now and play the Patriots next. So I think there's going to be maybe some false hope on them heading towards 5-6, that they're still in the playoff race. We didn't mention them with those teams. I'm not super impressed with this win here. The Raiders offense had a series success rate of 85%. On late downs, they averaged almost a full EPA per play. They were 10 of 16 on 3rd down and 4th down. It's not great if the Raiders offense is doing that to your defense. Weird game. I noticed I pull up the drive chart in this one. I can't say I watched a lot of this game. The first half, we basically got 4 possessions. We had a 14 play drive, a 12 play drive, and then back-to-back 16-play drives, and then a kneel down. Only field goals mostly, so it's 10-6 at the half. But I think the Raiders actually were kind of hammering the Dolphins defense by the numbers. And then, like you said, it was close until late. The final score, I think, for other folks like us that probably didn't pay a lot of attention to this one with other better games, it's like, oh yeah, of course the Dolphins beat the Raiders. The Raiders are bad. Sure, that's easy. I'm not necessarily sure that that's what I think about this game here. So I would caution about being like, oh, the Dolphins are back. I'm not sure that the Dolphins, I'm not sure what they are, but they're not back.
Yeah, this makes you kind of just believe the Raiders are a little frisky is what I kind of get from this, because they did stick around for a while in this one. All right, Rams at Patriots. Rams beat the Patriots 28-22 as a 4-point road favorite. Total goes over 42 in this one. McVay, to me, is the story. In his coaching career, he is now 15-6 against the spread on short rest. Covered 6 straight in that spot. He is now 11-1 against spread in his last 12 on short rest, including 7-1 with Stafford. So Drake May probably the story here, since he did look really good at points and was giving the Rams some fits, and that's what McVay, and it seemed like Stafford wanted to talk about after, that Drake May looked good, but Rams do get the job done in a, obviously, as we talked about earlier, tight division.
Yeah, pretty dominant too, actually. The Patriots scored 9 in the last quarter. The Rams are up big, so that was never really in doubt here. Puka and Kupp combined for 13 catches, 229 yards, and 3 scores. So that's pretty much the difference. The Patriots could not stop them. Matt Stafford, nearly 300 yards, plus 4 touchdowns. Good day for the Rams. 5-5. They were the team I was fading big coming to the season. Certainly not going to finish with the worst record in the league. That bet is not happening for me. 5-5 on a day that the Niners lose and Seattle wins. They're right in the mix. They are right there. The offense is mostly healthy now. They looked good today, but they look good against the Patriots. And a little spoiler alert for you, we'll be coming back to the Rams, and I'm not necessarily sold on them yet when we get to the hot read.
All right. We'll get there in a second. But last but not least, how can we forget Minnesota at Tennessee? Minnesota beats the Titans 23-13, covers the -6 on the road. Total goes under 40. Tennessee, this is the stat. Tennessee is 2-8 straight up, but 1-9 against the spread this year. Now, that is the worst ATS mark through 11 weeks since the 2007 Ravens. We don't see 1-9 ATS very often. And that one cover, I believe, Tyler Huntley, I think, was the one. Oh, no, that might have been the
Monday night game against the Dolphins.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah, so that's the situation. Tennessee figures it out. But what else you got here?
Yeah, Vikings defense was great. Nick Westbrook-Akine for the Titans gets a 98-yard touchdown, because every now and then Minnesota just decides to give you a 100-yard touchdown. That's just a thing for Vikings fans, we know. I didn't even wear the Vikings jersey for this one. Who needs to talk about the Titans? Like, you're supposed to be the Titans. Tennessee, outside of that one play, under 200 yards, 10 first downs. Will Levis, 5 sacks. This was a dominant Minnesota performance, but dominant against the Titans. Minnesota is now 8-2. 4-0 of that is against the AFC South. So the Vikings are the AFC South champions. Put them in the AFC playoffs. Leave some more room in the NFC for the other teams. That's my take.
That's hilarious. That's a great one. And the fact that is where their record is at the moment versus those teams maybe says something about Minnesota, but that's for another day. Okay, Monday Night Football. The Texas battle. We've got the Texans at the Cowboys. The only stat I really want to give off the top here to kind of table set that I think is relatively important. This year, the Texans, 1-9 against the second half spread. Worst mark in the NFL. The Texans have also struggled coming out of the locker room. They are 1-9 against a third quarter spread. Worst mark in the NFL. Since the start of last year, 8-21 in that third quarter coming out of the locker room. So a bet I almost feel like I have to take is Texans first half, Cowboys full game. But the question I guess I have back for you is, do you think Cooper Rush can keep Dallas in this one? With the spread, it's about 7 right now, total of 41.
Yeah, I'm not sure I want to back Cooper Rush here, but the stats that you just said are real, and I think they're enough to keep me off of wanting to bet the Texans here. By the matchup on paper, this should be a blowout. And this should be a make other plans for your Monday night sort of game. Cowboys on the season, bottom 7 offense, bottom 7 defense. And that's the season-long numbers. That's counting Dak Prescott, not Cooper Rush, which I think they had like 150 yards-ish last week, 6 points against the Eagles. The one unit I'm confident here is the Texans defense. So combine that with Cooper Rush or Trey Lance or whoever it is that's going to be rolling out there. I don't see the Cowboys scoring a lot. I look at the team total under. 16.5 is a pretty low number. Like, you can't get any fluke turnover, that sort of thing. I'll stay away. You're right about the Texans 1-9 ATS second half, but the Cowboys are 3-6, so they're not necessarily a great team there. The one thing they have done, though, that I'm aware of is against Baltimore, and I forget, it was against San Fran maybe. The Cowboys got crushed, dominated, and then scored some crap garbage time scores to close in and end up covering the second half. So I don't really need the -7, especially if it's over the -7, which I think it will be at kickoff. This is a rivalry game. Last 3 games, 4 points, 3 points in overtime, 3 in overtime. So I took the Texans when we did best bets, but I took them on a teaser. I like the teaser still. I think the Texans win the game. You're teasing it down to 1.5. You're basically getting a money line out of it. If you are closing out your teaser, great. Let's hang on and hope for the best. Start a new teaser. You can tease it on Monday, pick a game for next week, and you could get like a first leg to start out your next week. If you want to bet just for this game, one that I don't do very much here, give me Micah Parsons, -110 to record a sack in the game. CJ Stroud, 34 sacks, second most in the NFL. He's had multiple times sacked, all but one game. The offensive line has not been good. Even Laramie Tunsil has not been that great this season. Parsons has a sack just over half of the games in his career. He had 2 last week coming back from the injury list. I bet him, as you know, I can't give up on Parsons. I bet him 200-1 to lead the league in sacks. He only has 3 because he missed like 6 weeks or something, but he has a really good closing stretch, and this was the game I was kind of counting on to kickstart it here. I looked. I can't find escalators. If you can find a sack escalator, give me the Parsons sack escalator. 1 sack, 2 sacks. I'll play 3 sack. It's like Dr. Seuss over here. But my main bet for the game is just the -110 on 1 Micah Parsons sack in the game.
All right, so let's add something onto that. Let's say Parsons does get a lot of pressure. One bet I was looking at was Stroud over 8.5 rushing yards. Running quarterbacks have done a pretty decent job against Dallas in terms of getting out in the open field. And 2 primetime road games, Stroud does have 11 rush attempts. So I do think there's going to be a chance here. And if Parsons does get pressure and the pocket kind of breaks down, I think there is a chance he gets out in the open. And 8.5 rushing yards, I think he might get over that. All right, it is time for your hot read. Give it to me. What's your first pick? What are you thinking?
Yeah, we had a little heartbreak on Sunday night coming in here with my Bengals pick, but I'm going back to Sunday night next week. I'm going to take the road team again in Los Angeles again. Give me the Philadelphia Eagles, -2.5 in LA, but against the Rams, not the Chargers next week. So not a lot of trends here. Our next pick will be lots of trends. This is just me believing in the Eagles, not quite believing in the Rams. We talked about the Rams against the Patriots. That was good. It was a good win. I like that they got the good win. I think it got us under the key number. This was 3. It is 3 at a bunch of books. We're under the 3 here. That's why I want it now on the hot read. Eagles, since the bye week, are 6-0, and they are demolishing teams. They have had more than 100 yards, more than the opponent, all 6 of those games. They are the number 1 defense by DVOA in that stretch, which counts how good the opponent is. So not a lot of great opponents, but it does include Washington, it does include Cincinnati. We've seen how good those teams are. No opponent in that stretch has had even 300 yards of offense. Teams are averaging 211 yards of offense. So look, the Rams offense is healthy, looking pretty good. I like the matchup here. So Eagles, you've heard a lot of talk Thursday night, those young corners, Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, the rookie corners. I like that against Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, especially DeJean in the slot. I think that matches up well. Fangio defense wants to force you to take long drives and matriculate down the field. I don't trust Matt Stafford to do that. He's going to YOLO it every now and then. And the Eagles have forced 11 turnovers the last 4 games. I think that bodes well. On the other side, the Rams defense has played better, but it's that great young defensive line. Jordan Mailata's back. The Eagles O-line can hold up. So I think if they do hold up, the back 7 on the Rams could get exposed here too. So Eagles are a team that, we bashed early on. They were not looking good. All the Sirianni rumors and everything. They were a team that made sense to wait out early. New offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator, new systems, and then think about buying later. I think this is a team to buy now. I think you want Eagles futures. I think they might be on par with the Lions in the NFC as a legit Super Bowl contender. We'll start here with this one, -2.5 in LA against the Rams. There's going to be plenty of Eagles fans at that game.
Yeah, at the moment, 2.5 looks pretty key as I see some books going up to 3. So find those 2.5s. What's your second pick?
Second one, a little bit of a cheat here because neither one of these teams actually played today. But I do see the number moving already. So we're going Bucks Giants next week. Boy, isn't that sexy? Give me the under 43 and a number that's already starting to tick down a little bit. So actually, both of them coming off of a bye week is what caught my attention here. A lot of times during the bye week, you get the defense right a little bit. You get a little extra prep for the opposing offense. And there's a trend I've got that popped here. Both teams coming off a bye week, the under goes 62% over the last couple decades. If the total's over 40, the under is 39 and 19, 67%. So 2/3 of the time, both teams off the bye like here, we go under. Giants defense has been good. Dexter Lawrence has been great. They got a good up front. Tristan Wirfs, I think, probably still out for the Bucs. So the O-line is not as good as it's been. Liam Cohen, we've talked about how good their offense has been, but you're missing your best blocker. You're missing your top receiver in Chris Godwin. Maybe Mike Evans. We don't know yet. I think he'll probably play. But it's not the Bucs offense it once was. It's not matchup for me, though. It's trend. So I mentioned the trend on the double bye thing. Beyond that, since 2017, a total between 39 and 45. When it drops from open, this was 44 on the season look ahead. When that drops, 56% to the under. Brian Dable, so Giants trend. Totals below 44, 63% to the under. Todd Bowles, a Bucs trend. Road unders, 59% to the under. Just like every one of my trends is popping on the under. Possible we get wind here as well. Looks windy in New York. Windy under 62% last 5 seasons. So just lots of trends on a game that, frankly, you and I don't care about, but I care about winning money. So I'll play the under here. 43 is a key number. Grab that if you can. We're already 42.5, a lot of books. 41 and 40 are key numbers. That's a really important range there. So we'll grab the under 43. Bucs, Giants. Hopefully you don't have to watch it very much. We'll just get our winnings at the end.
Yeah, I can't wait to look because I don't remember the last time Daniel Jones at home had a 43 in terms of a total there. So it does feel a tad high and coming down as well. So
we don't know it will be Daniel Jones this time
that's
either.
Fair.
It could be Drew Lock coming out of the bye week, but I don't necessarily mind that for my bet either.
Let's assume DJ maybe gets one more here, at least hopefully for our bet here, since his home games and overall he goes to the under. But that's it. That is the Week 11 NFL slate. What a day and week and slate it was. I am Evan Abrams. That is Brandon Anderson. This was the Action Network podcast. We'll be back same time next week, and enjoy the week, everybody.